Welcome to the Global Wellness HQ family of podcasts. We are your international headquarters for resources and ideas and insight in relation to the 9 elements of holistic wellness. Join us as we interview local and international wellness experts and learn how you can implement and improve one element or dimension of wellness at a time. Our experts will share their practical tips on wellness in one of these core areas: emotional, intellectual, occupational, physical, environmental, financial, spiritual, social, or habitual. We created our family of podcasts as a resource for anyone who is looking to integrate the 9 elements of holistic wellness into their daily lives. Welcome to the show. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the show. I'm really excited that Shelly Starks has decided to come back and be another guest on the show again. We had her earlier on in season 2. So, Shelly and I today, we are going to talk about artificial intelligence and communication and translation. Shelly, why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about what we're going to cover and why it matters to you?
Sure. Thanks, Jeff. I appreciate you having me back on. I am so happy to be networking with you. Thank you for all the introductions, and I enjoy connecting people with you as well as a resource. So, talking a little bit different on the communication side than we were the last time I was here. I am working with an organization that specifically is focusing with healthcare for an AI translation tool that is 30% more accurate than Google Translate and is 98% accurate. It is HIPAA compliant, and we are working with hospitals and doctors' offices all over the country to help translate their content or translate live translation between doctor and patient into 104 languages and 100 dialects. So it's almost kind of scary, Jeff, like some of the stuff it can do, but it's really neat that it's starting to happen through the AI channel. And, it's just a matter of time. So it's whether or not you jump on the bandwagon now or you jump on it later.
I love it. Now, some of what we're about to talk about is going to be very, very self evident. So, for the viewers, pardon me, I'm asking Shelly questions that I think you need to ask. If I miss the mark, reach out to Shelly. She's an amazing human. She will answer your questions. But the first question is why? And this is going to feel really obvious, but I almost feel dumb asking the question. Why would a doctor care about multi-language support?
Well, there's two reasons. One is from a compliance standpoint. That's probably the most important piece, especially if you are in a hospital setting. If you are discharged, it is by law, they must give you your discharge papers in your native language. And so hospitals spend a lot of time and money trying to have translation services available 24/7 for those patients so that they can, get them processed through and get them discharged to go home. So compliance is one issue, but the other issue is, when somebody feels like they're understood or heard from any communication standpoint at all, whether it's a language barrier, a behavioral style, whatever it is, they tend to feel like they can trust you. And so from a doctor's perspective or a nurse perspective, when you've got somebody there and you've got their care in their hands, when that person feels like they can trust you, they're going to be a better patient. And the doctor gets to, the doctors are just as much in sales as anybody else because they need to make sure that those people want to come back and continue to be a patient at their facility. And that's what keeps the whole thing going, right, Jeff? Like they want to be able to get that referral from somebody else, and that they want to come back and continue to get care from them. So if somebody feels like you understand them, especially in language, they can give you better information to be a better doctor, get better medical advice based on understanding what's going on with their body.
I love that. And let's talk about trust for a minute because you're a communication expert. Um, if you have that human in the room and they're doing the translation services, as opposed to something, and we'll talk about the logistics in a second, but you know, if somebody has to pause and wait for someone else, and then, how good is that for building trust for that patient, for the doctor?
Well, I just think the fact that they're not 100% sure if what is being, translated is accurate information. And then when it comes back to them, translation always has a little bit of, like, is it really accurate? Is it not accurate? And so what I will say is that this technology that we're using is HIPAA compliant. So it is going to protect the information for that patient. But obviously, if it was not, if it wasn't at 90%, 98% accurate, you'd have to be a little nervous about healthcare advice or giving healthcare consultation, because you want to make sure you don't, mess up the one word for one way or the other for their care, because that could really impact somebody that, depending on what they've got going on physically, could really impact them possibly for the rest of their life. It's pretty serious.
Well, and that's again, what's the liability? And I don't know the answer to this, and I don't know if you do, but if I'm a doctor, you're my patient, and the translator says something wrong and you decline treatment because of whatever the words were, who has the liability in that scenario? I
Well, the
mean, forget the
hospital, yeah, the doctor and the hospital, they all have to, because this is somebody that's on their staff that's doing the translation. But I mean, it's not as often that they have a translator in the room for them. A lot of times they'll call them, and the translator is an employee or a contractor to the hospital. And we're not eliminating, with this AI technology, we're not eliminating those people in those positions as translators, because you still need to have somebody take a peek at, like, discharge papers and make sure that they're actually accurate based on what the doctor was saying in that language. So, but it just helps them speed up the time that they have for discharge. So think about how hospitals make money. The more people that are in those beds, the quicker they get them turned around, the more money that they make. Or, the patient could be, needing to have a different level of care, and needing to get to that different level of care, having to get through the discharge there to get to maybe a specialist or something a little higher need. And the sooner that happens, the better it is for them physically.
I love that. Now, let's talk about the technology for a minute. And for my viewers, this is always about the relationships with people like Shelly first. So if you want to learn more, I'm going to, not surprisingly, tell you to reach out to Shelly. The reality is Shelly's taking her time to share this stuff with us. So I'm really encouraging people to connect with her and have a conversation. Just let her know that you heard about it through me, so that she knows you're one of my special people, and she'll take extra special care. Now,
Absolutely.
Shelly, you were describing the technology to me this morning, and I said, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa! Let's just record this." What does this app do? And I'm not going to share the name, but what does the app do, and how does it make communication faster, more reliable, and quite frankly, better?
Well, there's several applications for it, and it can be an app, it can be a plugin on a website, it can be a line of code in the back, for a live, conversation on a phone. So I'll tell you about a couple of the different scenarios, so as it relates to healthcare, so that kind of where this could potentially, be a benefit to the people that are listening on the healthcare side. So the number one thing that everybody always knows about translation service is that it translates text, right? It translates anything in a document. So this product can actually absolutely do that in a matter of seconds. That's not a big deal. But on the side for videos, sometimes where video content has already been pre-recorded, it's really challenging for a translation service to be able to translate that video post-recording. This technology will allow you to do that. So if you've got patient videos, if you've got tutorials that you're needing, if you need to give post, surgery instructions, if you've been using any of those things from a video content standpoint, it translates those in seconds and puts the text into 104 languages and 100 dialects. So that's pretty significant. The other application is that you can actually use it in call centers. So most people don't even understand this. This is huge because of offshore talent that they're utilizing in the call center, and that, not being able to understand them for scheduling. That's frustrating for everybody on both sides. But this technology actually lets you plug into the actual, as an API, plug into the phone system, and will live translate based on picking up on that dialect or that language and the dialect on the phone, which there is no selection of a language. It just picks up on it. It actually even has the tonality to some degree of the person on the other line, which is kind of scary, but again, it's coming. And the important part here is to note that none of this information leaves the actual server of the company that has a subscription. So no patient information, no patient demographic, no social security numbers, any of those things that could be very, very heavily regulated, especially through HIPAA, does not happen. It stays on that server. Another application is you can utilize the plugin in Outlook that will allow you to select. You can write your email and it will allow you to select a language because you know the patient's language. It will auto translate for you and then send it out to that patient. Obviously, when someone replies back in their language, you can just submit it right back through the tool and it will translate it back to English for you. Another application, if you don't mind me continuing on here, Jeff, I know it's on and on, but there's actually the subscription holder, say a hospital, can put this plugin on their actual website. And there's a patented technology that picks up on the device language that is looking at the website. So when you register, when you start up a new phone, your phone actually asks you to select a language. And whatever the language is that your phone, that you elected when you set your phone up to begin with, will be the language that website gets translated to automatically. You're not going to have to select a change in the language. You're not going to have to wait for it. It is just going to automatically load for you to be able to see that. Now, on the flip side, on the consumer side, the consumer can also purchase this as a tool for their plugin on their computer. And that way, any language, any website they go to, it will auto translate it for them as a consumer.
Very cool.
The last piece I think that's important is the doctor to patient communication. So basically, we've set it up to where the doctor can come in with his device, have a QR code on the device. The patient will scan the QR code. The patient will be taken to a portal that's a secure portal again. And the doctor can talk into that portal. It will automatically audio change it for him. So it turns into an audio message in the language of the device that the client has. And then it will also do it in text. And then when the patient sends back a message, it auto translates it back to the language of the doctor.
I love that. And I think, so you were talking about some cool statistics. We're going to go into the numbers of this. But how big a deal is this, for the average doctor, hospital? How many languages are they dealing with on a daily basis? And what are the three big languages?
Well, it depends on where you are demographically, to be honest. So obviously South Miami is going to have different, language and dialects than maybe North Dakota is going to. But it's really surprising because a lot of businesses, and especially larger medical facilities, they take a lot of time and a lot of money goes into understanding the demographic that's coming to their website, because they want to make sure they're marketing appropriately to them, and that they are being accustomed, customizing things based on that demographic so that they drive more business, right? That's where the ROI comes from. Well, we've had a recent study with, and I won't share who it was, but it was a university that we had a recent study with, and they actually were absolute that they knew exactly what top 3 languages were coming through on their website, where people were coming and looking at their website. we asked if we could do a, a 30-day trial, 15 to 30-day trial on their website. So we don't gather any of that information other than what the language is, but we could give them some demographic information. And the most shocking part, Jeff, was the top 3 languages they had, 2 of them were not their top 3 languages. They actually had 2 other languages. They only had 1 language that was in the top 3 out of the demographic information that we had collected over that time period. So you have to think that that could be really changing their return. That could be really changing their income coming in as a university for people all over the world that are wanting to take online courses. It's the same thing for people coming to you for healthcare. You could be missing a demographic that you don't even know is out there that's trying to connect with you and come to you as an actual facility or as a doctor.
And just let's back up half a step. If somebody is, let's say they pick their top 3 languages and they're hiring a translator, what's the rough cost of a translator? Because you're literally going to have, in this case, 2/3 of your people not actively serving your top demographics.
So we have a hospital that just came on board in Central Florida, not too long ago, maybe about 2 months ago, and we were able to go in. They were spending about $130,000 a month in translation services, a month in translation services. And with this new tool, this new AI translation tool, we were able to get them down in right around the $80,000 a month range. And they're getting more services. They don't have to eliminate their translation, group. It's just going to help them turn these things around quicker. So now they're starting to be able to see more patients, have more patients come through, bill more with the insurance. Obviously, that's how they make their money. So this is just making them more effective and more efficient, but it's also helping them with a huge cost savings.
I love that. And I think that's, to me, if you're in a community, whether you're a hospital, university, what have you, you serve that community. And then over time, that community might change. Do you have to find new people, new staff? Do you turn over? Or do you find new technology that allows you to serve your existing people and your new people better? So,
Yeah, well, and something you just mentioned, Jeff, that made me think of this. This is not just an external, thing to patients. It's also an actual external or internal thing with your actual, staff. So we want to talk about the hot topic of DEI, diversity and inclusion. We have to realize that when we hire different demographic people, we have to make sure that we can provide them their training material and their language. Obviously they may need to be able to, speak English to work at that facility, but everyone learns better when they hear their information in their native language. So if you're able to convert that because you have a 30% Spanish speaking demographic, now they're actually consuming that much quicker. Your liabilities go down because they understand the processes more around the facility. And it's actually, making you compliant on the DEI side.
I love that. And I think, again, without extra big investment, extra big costs. But just thinking about it, I big fan of diversity and inclusion, but a lot of companies look at it and say, "Oh my God, how do we possibly, it's cost prohibitive to create materials for everybody." And I recognize, and I think this is an opportunity. Yes, the any technology that does this sort of work is going to be, 99% accurate or something. Um, how inclusive is it when your team is getting to say, there's an error here, or God, I'd never used that word, or, why didn't we say it this way? But you're building that collaboration because it's not, the English manual, and up in Canada, everything's either English or French. Um, you're not reading that if that's not your principal language.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, there's certain time periods where they have to make sure that they're staying compliant throughout the year that they're there. So once a year, you got to do all your standard, your standard videos on sexual harassment and, not taking money and all of the different things that go into play for a regular employee. But now that you've got it in a language where they can understand it, they're signing off on that and they're literally taking the liability saying, yes, I read this and I agree to not do these things.
Yeah.
As opposed to maybe it could be, taken in court. It could be, well, it wasn't in their language, so they didn't quite understand the full capacity of the risk there.
Yeah. And I think that's important because when you're learning languages, the first thing we learn is, how to read and write and then to speak it. The very last thing, the mastery of the language, is when we learn to think it. And if you're training people, I work with a lot of training departments, and I can see the people struggling because their certification or training is in English, and they're coming back saying, "Oh, I feel so stupid," or "Why can't I get this?" And it's like, because you haven't learned to think in English yet.
Right.
And in our case, a lot of the challenge is that the certification exam is also only available in English.
Good
So
point.
that's very demotivating to people if, it's and studies have shown over and over that IQ is a function of language skills more than anything. If you're not conversant in a language, you're going to struggle and feel inferior.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. And think about what that does for performance. So when
Yeah.
you don't feel good about about what your performance is going to automatically go down. So I mean, this just affects people from every possible area in an organization, and not the least being the fact that you can attract and retain talent that, because labor shortages is a real thing right now. And so like if you were able to put something in place, and guess what, word of mouth is still the best way to get your word out there about your company. Could you not get a demographic of people that are like, hey, listen, this hospital is doing this type of translation for us, or this doctor is doing that. They're going to tell their friends, they're going to tell their family, and bring over talent to your organization if that's something that is a problem for you now.
Yeah. And I'm just thinking again, when we're looking at organizations, we're becoming more and more diverse. I mean, how many languages and dialects do we cover with this tool?
It's 104 languages and 100 dialects on top of that. And
Wow.
it's an AI tool, so it's continually learning new languages out there.
I love that because I think, again, I live in a very ethnically diverse neighborhood. I can go all day without hearing a word of English.
Yeah,
And, sometimes I'm curious, it's like, what are they talking about? But,
yeah,
but just thinking about all of these people, they have lives, they have jobs, they go somewhere. Are they able to speak the language they're comfortable in? And, just a little thing, but I was in line at a store the other day and there was a big long lineup, and this elderly woman just walked up to the front of the line and she put her stuff down and she said, "I'm here." And one of the people in line was very insistent that she go to the back of the line. And luckily somebody spoke the language and she was like, oh, she hadn't noticed the line, whatever it was. But, you know, the days of just speaking English are gone. I think it's,
yeah,
we live in this very mobile world. And also I think you can look at entertainment, the training is just a big piece of it, for the hospitals, but also, think about patient welfare. If they can watch television in their language in their room, the patient's going to be happier for a longer stay. Again,
yeah,
I live in a world where hospitals used to rent you televisions for 25 bucks a day. I'm guessing now it's more about Wi-Fi access, but people want to be included. They want to be in their personal language. Is that fair?
Yeah, it is fair. And I think that, you know, this is not a matter of should we do it. It's a matter of when are we going to do it, because your competitors are already doing it, or some people in this healthcare space are already doing it. And so you want to make sure that you're kind of staying on top of that. And the fact that we're able to get it in under less than what you currently are having to pay for it now, with it being AI, and then it's going to constantly be learning. And also we will allow these organizations to do like a 15-day demo where they can kind of see it and feel it for themselves, on their actual platforms that they have, either on the employee platform or their training platform, or even if they want to just utilize it with a short demographic of people that are coming into their facility, and just see what the reception is. We'll allow for that. So we definitely, Jeff, I'm really, excited to be part of this whole cutting edge type technology that's already out there, because like you said, I'm a communications coach. That's what I do for a living. And I just love helping people communicate better. And this is what a better tool than to help include all the people that, typically maybe they feel like they are not getting something in their language and feeling a little bit left out of that, or feeling like they're not getting the same care as somebody else. I mean, that's really, really important for them to feel that way, not only to drive business back to that facility, but for the health and well-being of those individuals.
Well, and let's be really, really blunt here. Healthcare is a competitive industry. If you're not attracting that multitude of diverse people, your competitors are going to say, okay, this is worth, there's money in being inclusive. And I think we should all be inclusive for personal reasons and
Right.
for humanitarian reasons, but from a profit point of view, if you're not looking at how can we be more inclusive, I guarantee one of your competitors is. Is that a fair comment?
Fair. Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, we're already, partnering with people all over the world. But specifically in the US, I mean, we're talking like very, very large hospital groups. And just because they see the value, not just from a financial standpoint, but from your point, from a scalable profitability point, in the long term, not just for today, but long term, technology is going to help them continue to grow and scale their business, which is the name of the game, if we're being honest.
Yeah, and from an employee point of view, I know this from my anecdotal experience, but happy employees bring their friends and family to work. They bring the next happy employee, and the more we can make them feel included and happy, the better we're going to do financially, but also, you're going to reduce things like turnover. Like I just can't even fathom being the only employer in your neighborhood or in your community to say we've got 104 languages plus 100 dialects. Pick your training language. Like that just blows my mind that that can be done. And for what it's worth, I've worked with a lot of software companies. Having a second language is a giant, colossal leap. But if
Yeah.
you can just easily add 104 pieces of different languages, different 100 dialects, that's phenomenal.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is. And it's something that happens in seconds. Like it doesn't have to take a long time to do it. Or if they're accessing this on a device and you've got the technology that's just on the front side of that training platform, then whatever their device language, that's how they see the language. You don't have to convert your entire website and the content on it. It's just going to convert whatever is coming through to that device when you download that website. So, I mean, it's time saving, it's money, it's saving money, it's DEI, it's all the things.
Ticks a lot of boxes. And again, what I'm hearing from this is they're getting better options for less than the traditional, employee on hand. We need Because I can't imagine when you're in an emergency room setting when seconds count, waiting for your translator to come in or to call in or whatever. That's a delay that we might not be able to afford.
Agreed.
Um, but also from an employee point of view, waiting for the translator to get through. I know people who translate documents. There's a huge time commitment there.
Sure. I mean, think about it from just surgical centers, you've got to have everything signed off when you acknowledge before you go in from anesthesia, or you acknowledge the doctor needs you to sign something, or you're signing the medical waivers. You have to make sure that they're signing that in their native language, or they need to hear the information in their native language in order to agree to it, or it's not legally binding, and they're not taking the liability of knowing what the risks are. You are actually putting it back on the facility. So it definitely ticks a lot of boxes, and some of them we haven't even talked about today, but it's you could see where this could go deep and wide for a healthcare organization. And just having the conversation around it, let's just see if it makes sense for your organization to even
Yeah.
implement something like this.
I love it. Well, Shelly, I could talk to you about communication all day, and out of respect for your time, I won't. So, is there anything I should have asked you that we should have talked about that I haven't?
I don't think so. I just am here as a resource. You can reach out to me. My email is Shelly@shellystarks.com. I'm happy to, talk to anybody that is looking to find out more, would like to see a demo, would like to discuss what that could look like for your organization. And I just thank you very much, Jeff, for always being such a supportive networking friend. And I'm just thrilled to know you and know your network. So thanks for having me on again.
Awesome. And I'll put your LinkedIn profile below so people can connect. I say this sincerely. I'm absolutely fascinated and terrified. I think AI can do some really interesting things, and I think as a species, we owe it to ourselves to figure out how AI can help us. And I'm really excited by the language piece because I think a lot of conflict comes from not understanding, and speaking the different languages is one way to elevate it. So, Shelly, I want to thank you for hanging out with me and being a repeat guest on the show so quickly. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate you, Jeff.
Thank you for taking the time to listen to our show. We hope that you enjoyed this episode, and we invite you to either click the link below or scan the QR code to register and listen to other episodes of our podcast. Or if you think your business or you would be a great guest to be on our show, we're always looking for experts in one of the 9 elements of holistic wellness. We'd love to have you. You can either click the link below or you can scan the QR code and complete our speaker intake form. Thank you, and to your wellness.